So, hi everyone. I welcome you all to this data science career guidance step to success webinar. We are delighted to have Yogesh Tak here as a speaker for this webinar. Let me tell you a few things about Yogesh. Yogesh is currently working as a data scientist at Tesco in the customer data team. He has a total experience of 4 years in the field, starting his career at AXA in 2019. His experience includes working mostly around customer data, segmentation, marketing, CRM, and personalization. He did his graduation in food technology and transitioned to data science later. Now over to you, Yogesh.
Yeah. So hello everyone. I'll just share my screen and then we can start. Can you all see my screen? You can just type yes. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So we'll start. So today's session will be about mapping your career path in data science. So just a heads up, there won't be any coding involved, anything at all. It's just a guide. How can you enter as a fresher, or if you want to transition from one field to data science? So before we start, a little bit about myself. So I started my career in 2019. I started with EXA, which is one of the insurance company, as a data analyst. And now I'm working with Tesco as a senior applied data scientist. And I work in the customer data team. So anything related to customer data, or how customers are behaving on a day-to-day basis, anything related to customers, we deal with in Tesco. A little bit about myself. I love road trips. I love playing video games. Big fan of Lego. This is the latest Lego set that I built. Big fan of watching good movies and cooking as well. So just a quick question. How many of you think that I have a master's degree in data science? Just like quick 30 seconds. Okay, someone said that I have a master's degree. You can guess. No, okay. Yeah, so you won't. So if you think that I have a master's degree, that's no, I don't have a master's degree. I did my graduation in food technology, but then I transitioned into data science. So, I don't know how many of you have read this article. It was published 10 years back in Harvard Business Review that data scientist is the sexiest job of 21st century. But does it hold true in today's age, or in 2023? Is data scientist still the sexiest job of 21st century? Because we have lots of tools now. It's very easy to code because people relate data science with just coding. We have ChatGPT, Google Bard, or Dolly from Databricks. There are lots of large language models which can code better than humans. But there is a difference. If you compare ChatGPT and let's say Parrot and ChatGPT, they also learn random sentences from random people. They talk like humans, but don't really understand what they're saying. And sometimes they speak absolute nonsense. Parrot is a cute little bird. ChatGPT, not so much. So yes, data scientist is still a sexiest job. It's still in high demand. ChatGPT or these large language models can help you, make the Lego bricks. But as a human being, as a data scientist, you need to join those bricks and make your castle. So ChatGPT can help you write a block of Python code, but you need to know what to do with that Python code, how to make pipelines, how to make apps with it, or do your analysis. So I don't believe that with ChatGPT and everything, data scientist as a job profile will go away or it will become less popular. It has even become more popular because those large language models are generating even more data, and we need people to analyze that data. And before we go further, let's define what data scientist is. And most of you must have seen this graph. Data scientist is some kind of a unicorn who knows statistics, who knows computer science, who should also have some kind of business expertise as well. And that's kind of true. So a data scientist is not about just coding. They should also know, statistics, little bit of math, should have a great understanding of business. So someone who should be better at statistics than most of the software engineers, and should be better at software engineering and programming than any statistician or mathematician. And that's how you become that unicorn kind of a data scientist. So in today's talk, what we will cover is, we'll start with the hard skills. So the thing is, if I have to start again, how will I learn all the hard skills? Then soft skills. And I would say the soft skills is the magic behind having a successful career that will set you apart in interviews, in your job, and everything. Because most of the people will have hard skills, but it's very hard to work on the soft skills. And in the end, once you have gained hard and soft skills, how to penetrate and go into the career path as well. So let's start with the hard skills. So hard skills depend on what kind of a data role that you're playing in an organization. And there are a lot more data roles, but in a nutshell, I would describe in these four categories: data scientist, data engineer, analyst, and a business intelligence. So depending on what role you're playing, there are different hard skills. And I'll give you an example from the F1 race. Data scientist is a person who will actually drive the car on a racetrack, who will enjoy the victory, who will get the thrill of driving fast cars. So, but data engineer will maybe try different engine oils, or build that engine to so that car can be built. So data engineer is more like a builder role than doing analysis and everything. Data analyst is a very different role altogether. Data analyst won't predict future. Data analyst will analyze data to see why something happened. Let's say we lost last race. Why we lost last race? Was it because of some engine oil that data engineer tried, or maybe that the track was very slippery because of rain? Any kind of data analysis, why and how, data analysts do it. The last is business intelligence. Business intelligence is all around reporting. You have a scorecard, how many races we've won, average time to finish the race, average speed of the car, any kind of report. Business intelligence will take care of it. They won't be interested in why something happened. That's what data analysts will do. So depending on these roles, you will need different hard skills. But I won't recommend any of you sticking to those roles. I would recommend become a full stack data scientist. A full stack data scientist is someone who is familiar with all stages of life cycle, what happens from start to end. You should know everything, little bit of everything, so that you're best suited to solve a particular problem. So how do you do that? Start with business acumen. You should know how to translate technical problems into business problems. How do you communicate your analysis to stakeholders? CEO or your senior manager or any kind of business person won't understand what kind of model you have built or what statistics you used for doing analysis. They'll be interested in how you communicate what you did. Programming is obviously very important to do any kind of task. Data analysis and exploration. So as a full stack data scientist, you should have curiosity to dig deeper into data. Why something happened? Is it really important? So there is a thing. For example, my age and rain in Bangalore might have a high correlation, but it doesn't mean that as I'm growing old, Bangalore has more rain. So you need to have that kind of a little bit of logical reasoning as well when you're doing data analysis. Data engineering, as I said, you should have a developer or a builder mindset, because you can do great analysis, you can do great models. But let's say if you can create any app or some kind of a website so that people can interact with your app, you can build data pipelines. So you should have a builder mindset as well. The last is machine learning. You should data exploration, visualization is all great, but can you go one step further? Can you solve a problem with even more complex route? So you should know how the machine learning works. So if you know a little bit about everything, I would consider you as a full stack data scientist, so that you're not stuck to a particular role. You're actually transition into a bit different data roles, and that's how you become that data scientist unicorn. So let's start with if let's say if it's 2017 or 2018, and if I were to start over from beginning, how will I go personally? The first step, I will learn to code. It can be Python or R depending your own interest, but I would highly recommend Python, because in the business world, most of the data science teams use Python. R, if you're going into more of a research data science role, if you're going into, let's say, a medical industry where they do lots of experimentation research, they use R because R is little biased towards statistics. Python, where it's more reusable, easy to learn, easy to adapt as well. So maybe stick with any one of them. I would recommend Python, and then learn to code. And you don't need to become a Python developer. You should know how to use Python to do your data, tasks, how to aggregate data, how to make charts with the data, how do you pivot data, all of this. So I have written, let's say, 4 things. If you know how to write reusable and modular codes, you're familiar with open source libraries like pandas, numpy, matplotlib, all of these things. Do you know how to read documentation, let's say, because these libraries are currently relevant, but maybe next year something else will come. Do you know how to read the documentation so that you can use a new library? Do you know how to version control? If you know all of these things, if you're familiar with this, then I would recommend to move to the next step. And one great resource is Data Camp. You can actually start from scratch and start your journey in the programming. So let's say you learned how to code. Let's move to the next step, math and statistics. And most of the people would say, this is the place that people get stuck. But I will recommend not focus on this step too much. You don't need to, solve calculus or probability question on pen and paper. But if you know that, let's say you're using one algorithm, if you know in theory how it works, then that's good enough. Let's say, a company tells you that, we get 100 job applications, or let's say millions of job applications. Can you identify how many are fraud, how many are actually relevant? So what kind of path will you take? Is it a classification problem, clustering problem, or regression problem? So these kind of things that you should know. I will never recommend you going and actually solving questions and calculus on pen and paper, but you should know how each library is built, what kind of problems are there, and how do you approach them. Do you know, let's say, if I give you some data, is it normally distributed or some other way? Do you know about random sampling? If someone asks you, from all the participants, can you randomly select 10? How do you do it as a logical step? So that's what I mean by math and stats. Don't go into detail, but you should know how everything works. And Coursera, Udemy are very good platform where you will learn actually applied stat and applied math, not the theoretical one. So let's assume you're good with math and stats. Let's move to the next step then. Then the third thing is, the programming, how everything works. Then you should know about data transformation and exploration. Most of the companies use SQL or big databases to store their data. Do you know how to query the data? Or let's say big companies will have a different database for, let's say, customer data, different database for what they watch on Disney and Hotstar, what kind of products they buy. Everything is in different databases. Can you join them all together? So you should know how to write SQL query so that you can query the data. Do you know what kind of different databases are out there? For example, MongoDB is more toward unstructured data. Hadoop is used for big data when we have petabytes of data, billions of rows, then we use Hadoop. So you should know what kind of databases are out there, and which one is suited for your task. That's where that full stack data scientist role comes into picture. You don't need to know each and everything, but you should be familiar with what is out there, and you should know the basics. And W3 School is one of the very good resources, free resource, where you can go and practice your SQL and anything. So you should be familiar with data transformation and databases. So then we move to the next step, data visualization. And data visualization is very important. And depending on company, there will be different tools. For example, one of the companies that I worked for uses Power BI. The other company uses Tableau. You don't need to learn both. Just learn one tool, and it's very easy to transition to a different tool if you know the basics and everything. And then learn about design principles. How do you communicate? Let's say you did some analysis that, okay, this is the reason why my customers are buying a particular product. How do you communicate that to a stakeholder or business people? So you should know how to convert that analysis into good visuals, and what kind of visual you will use in what kind of data. So and as I said, in real world, data is in it's a big data, petabytes of data. It's not even GB or TB. It's actually petabytes of data. Billions of row comes in every week, but how do you visualize them in a tool? And that's where your data visualization skills will come in. And as I have mentioned here as well, learn free tools. For example, Tableau is very expensive, but it's free for students. So if you're a currently enrolled student or you recently passed out, and if you have a student ID still with you, get Tableau for free for 1 year and practice there. And Udemy is one of the great start if you want to learn about data visualization. But don't get stuck with just the tools, learn design principles as well. So let's assume you're familiar with programming, math, databases, visualization. That's the key skills for, let's say, you're going into a data analyst role, because that will help you with why something happened, how something is happening. It's more about data exploration. But let's say if you want to move into a data scientist role as well, then learn about machine learning. And I won't recommending learning each and every algorithm out there, but learn basics. For example, do you know the difference between decision tree and a random forest? If let's say you have built a model, how do you evaluate a model? Is it working, not working? Or let's say you've built a model where you feed in, let's say, or let's say you built a forecasting model that next 1 week, I will have 1 billion of sales. But how is it working? Can you explain that to a business person? Because they won't trust your model until you can explain them in a very layman terms. That's where model explainability comes into picture. Focus there as well. So let's say you're familiar with, and I would recommend a great book. It's like a comic book to learn machine learning, which is StatQuest Illustrated Guide to Machine Learning. Read this book. This will actually explain all these algorithms or evaluation of model into very simple and very layman comic book kind of environment. And that way you can actually use those analogies in your real world to explain your work. And Data Camp and Udemy is again a very good start. So again, a recommendation, don't go much deeper, just start doing it. And you will explore more algorithms as you start, but start with something. Then last step is big data technologies. So right now, let's say you're a student or a recent graduate and you're learning everything online, Udemy or Coursera, or even in your college. But the data that you're working with is still limited. Maybe it's 1 GB or 2 GB, few million rows. But in real world, let's say retail organization, or even in companies like pharma companies, the data sets that they have is in billions of rows or billions of transactions that happens every week. Each transaction will have multiple products. So, learn about big data technologies. Hadoop is one of the good example. You should know how the big data ecosystem works, so that whatever you're doing in your programming, you're not just stuck with the Excel files. you need to know how to work with big data as well. So whatever machine learning, data visualization, whatever you learned before, you should be able to use those concepts in big data ecosystem as well. You should know how the parallel computing works. How, let's say you are doing some analysis on 2 TB of data, and 2 TB is like huge amount of data, more than 2000 GB of data. How do you use multiple computers to distribute your task so that you can, let's say, make a graph, a bar graph, or any kind of model? So learn big data technologies. And I will highly recommend PySpark, which is used in most of the organizations out there. If you're a PySpark, if you can code in PySpark, you're actually more than a unicorn for that company. So learn PySpark as well. Step 7, I will put it as an optional step if you want to go into it. It's about cloud computing. It actually depends on what organization that you will work in. Few of the companies are using cloud computing, but few companies might have their own cloud, internal private clouds. But any company that you go, you should know the basics of cloud computing. Can you start a virtual machine, let's say, or what kind of storage solution that you will use? And let's say if you're a student, I will highly recommend Azure and AWS. They actually give you free credits, or I think $300 or something, to actually learn these platforms. And there's a huge discount for students if you actually want to get certified as well. I won't recommend you getting certified, rather than I will actually ask you to learn and build projects out of it. That's more than certification. So just a hint or just a touch of cloud computing you should learn as a data scientist, but I won't focus here more. You can learn in the long run as well. The last step I would say is specialization. In data science, with a big organization, there are different teams who will do different kind of work. Few teams will actually focus on NLP, which is natural language processing, any kind of text data. Few teams works on forecasting, sales forecasting, or inventory forecasting, any kind of forecasting techniques. So these are different specialization that you can do, but I would say, don't get overwhelmed by all these words. Start with the basics. If you know all the basics, it's very easy to transition into all these specialization. And these specialization will depend on what kind of role you're going. For example, let's say you're coming into Tesco, and there's opening in computer vision department. Then they won't test you on NLP forecasting or anything. They'll actually test you on how do you deal with images and videos in your programming or in your portfolio. So depending on what team or what company that you will join, there will be different kind of specialization that you will do. And this list goes on. These are not the only specialization. Every year, new thing comes in, and every year something actually becomes obsolete. So don't get stuck here, but you should know the basics of it. So this is all about the hard skills, and as I would say, this was my own personal experience. If I were to start over, how will I learn? Start with the coding, little bit of math, how the SQL or the databases works, some visualization, little bit of machine learning and cloud computing. Then I would believe that you're ready for that full stack data scientist role. If not, let's say you focus on first 3 or 4 steps, you can actually transition into a data analyst role, and slowly you can actually move into a data scientist role. But start somewhere in the hard skills, and don't get overwhelmed by too many things. Just start, and other things that you'll figure it out. Now I will go towards the soft skills part. And from my experience, Tesco has a very big team, and even my previous company had a very big team of data scientists. But what sets you apart from others? And it's actually soft skills, because most of the people know how to code, how to make great models. But if you can't communicate that to people, then you won't be relevant for that long. So focus on the soft skills. And when I say soft skills, I'll start with the first one, data storytelling. how do you create a sticky story that your audience is very engaged, or whatever recommendation that you're giving, people will actually act on it? How do you influence people with the stories? Let's say you built a great model that my model will has a 98% accuracy. Actually, no one is interested about accuracy. It's good to have, but if you can't tell a story that, okay, my model will change how customers react or interact with my company, then people will listen to it. So keep things simple, and work on storytelling part as well. The second I would say is business expertise. Let's say you're amazing in programming, but if you can't attach some kind of a number to it. Let's say if the previous example, I built a machine learning model with 99% accuracy, my CEO won't be interested in it. If I tell him that I built this model and I'll save 50 million for the company, then that person will be much more interested in my model or what I am doing. So always try to translate data science task or your programming tasks into business problems. Or let's say if someone comes with a business problem, how do you use that business problem, and how do you use data science to solve that business problem? That's where your domain expertise comes in. Let's say if I'm working in retail, I should know about customer behavior, how the retail work, how the suppliers work, all of the how the pricing and promotion works. All of this domain expertise will be needed, and that will set you apart. The third thing is communication. How do you know ask people to act on your communication? Let's say you went to your head of uh, supplier, and you're saying that, okay, we are buying this particular milk product for 10 rupees. We shouldn't pay 10 rupees, we should pay, let's say, 8 rupees. But how do you tell him? If you tell him, him or her, that I built a model which says that milk should be priced at 8, not 10, that person will be like, no, can you explain it to me? How did you come up with that conclusion? So you should be able to know how to create a story and a communication style according to your audience. But let's say you're communicating with a research scientist or people with very technical background, then you can go into more detail. But let's say you're talking to business people, always try to talk in business terms, and that's where the model explainability comes in, which I mentioned in the machine learning part. You can build great models, but if you cannot explain those models to people, they're actually irrelevant. The last part is very important, lifelong learning. I know, whatever I learned 4 years back, few things are not relevant today. What I'm learning today might not be relevant tomorrow. So to stay relevant in this industry, you need to have a mindset of, lifelong learning. You should learn each and every day, or I would say every day, but still very frequently. For example, last year, large language models, ChatGPT and everything came. Before that, something else came. Maybe tomorrow or next year, something else will come, a new algorithm will come. So you need to know how to, adapt to new technologies and use them in your, day-to-day job. So you should have a very mindset and attitude about lifelong learning to stay relevant in this industry. So this is all about soft skills, and I'll again highly emphasize on soft skills more than the hard skills, because as I said initially, hard skills are actually a little easy to learn if you have a very clear curriculum or a mindset. And with the new AI tools and large language models, it's very easy to code as well. But the soft skills will set you apart, and that's where you will shine. So let's say you learned hard skills, you're also you have worked on your soft skills as well, and you're a recent graduate, or you want to transition into data science. How do you build a career? And I'll give you an example from Vogue Salaryman. It's a page on LinkedIn. You should actually try. So getting a job is like entering a club. Let's say you went one night to a club and you see a long queue before the club, and there is one bouncer who's not letting you enter it. That same thing how companies work as well. There are few job openings and there are thousands of people who actually want to get the job. and every company receives thousands, more than thousands of applications on each job. And that's like, you go to LinkedIn and click on apply now on every job, and then you wait, oh, someone will actually respond. No one will respond. Maybe once in 500 job that you applied, but it's very hard. Okay. But in clubs and jobs, there are more than one way to get in. It's not only just clicking on apply now button. Let's say in club, you know the owner of that club, or you know a friend who works at the club, or you know the bouncer or a DJ. Then you will just call them, hey, can you help me in entering the club? That's what you should do in job search as well. Do lots of internships, because internships are, one pathway to go into a full-time role. That way company can analyze how you work. Do you actually know things that you said that you know? And then they can convert your intern role into a full-time, a job role. So do lots of internships. Go to curated platforms. One is Zuno, which is very curated for internships and early careers. Third thing is network with people. Go and attend lots of conferences. And I'll say my first job, I got it through a network. So networking is very powerful. Just go and talk to people. The more people you know, it's easy to get a job or even go ahead in a career. The last thing that I will focus more is on personal portfolio if you want to get your first job. Because when, let's say, I'm working professional, if I go to a next company, I can actually show and talk about my projects in this company. But if you're a fresher, or if you want to transition, you don't have anything to show. So that's where you should build your own personal portfolio. I remember when I went for my first job interview, I actually printed all the dashboards, all the work I did, and made a file and showed my portfolio that these are the things that I worked in last 4 years of college. So build a personal portfolio. And and this is one of the questions that I hear a lot. Do you really need a formal degree to enter into data science? It actually depends on the role. For example, if you must have noticed, my role is applied data scientist. So applied data science is you're not doing any kind of research. What you're doing is people who are doing research and building algorithms, you're actually using those algorithms to solve business problems. Let's say someone built an algorithm to predict customer behavior. Then I will just take that algorithm and use in my real job to actually solve business problems. So if you're going into applied data science role, no, you don't need a formal degree, and even companies don't look for a formal degree. They actually look for a personal projects or what skill set that you have. But let's say you're going into a research data science role where you will build a new algorithm or a new programming language. I don't know, anything that you are doing, any kind of research. For example, like companies like Microsoft or Facebook, where they have their applied data science team as well as they have their research data science who will, for example, ChatGPT was a pure research data science role. Then yes, they will focus more on the formal college degree. And what kind of degree? Was it in mathematics? Do you know core mathematics to solve problems? So depending on your role, degree depends. But most of the roles, the business roles or the companies that you work for, I don't think you need a formal degree to enter into a data science role. And I know we talked about hard skills, soft skills, building a career, and it's very overwhelming. I remember when I was doing my food technology degree, and I had no relation or nothing related to data science that I was learning in my college. It becomes very overwhelming. You start learning something and then you get stuck. That okay, I should learn this before that. It's very overwhelming, but just act on it, and I think you'll do great. Because once you start doing it, you'll figure out things. And I'll highly recommend, don't learn through theory and books. Learn by doing it. Use free platforms like Kaggle or Google Colab or Udemy, because those platform actually focuses on applied part. They'll actually teach you how to do things rather than how things work in the background. Once you know how things work, how you do things, you can learn theory later. But I would say start doing it. Uh, One of the a resource that I would highly recommend if you still have your student ID, or you're a recent graduate or still in college, use GitHub Education. It's free resource. You will get free domain names, uh, free credits in cloud services, any kind of data set. There are lots of free tools. As I said before, Tableau is very expensive for organizations, but if you're a student, it's free for you. So use all these free resources while you're a student and build your portfolio. Let's say you use a domain name and a hosting free from here, and whatever analysis that you're doing, you're making a portfolio on one website. Or you take Azure cloud services and you build an app out of it, where you build a model or some kind of analysis and host it on Azure, so that other people can play around with your app or your model. So use GitHub Education or any other free resources. Just Google search, free resources for students. There are many apps. There are many technologies which are free for, or at a very discounted price for students. So as a student, use these to build your portfolio. So yeah, that's about it in today's session. If you have any questions, I'll go through the Q&A and I can answer it. And obviously you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll be very prompt in replying if you have any questions. And as well as that's where the networking comes in. Network and we'll help each other. So we can go to if there are any questions, you can maybe write it in the Q&A session. One of the question is, can I go for data science or ST role after BSc math? Yes, you can. Again, the data science and ST, software development engineering, is a very different role. As I said, data science work in the business world. Software development is a very different world. So I will recommend you first be clear about what kind of role that you want to go. If you want to go for data science, then yes, you can go after BSc math. Software development engineering, I would say, you need more programming and computer science skills to go. One of the question is where I can learn Python with free certification. It's a very good idea to learn Python, but I won't recommend you, focus on certification. I'll tell you, in Tesco, whenever we take interviews, if someone comes with 10 Udemy or 10 Coursera certification or any kind of certification, nobody actually cares. They will care if you build something, or if you, let's say you come to an interview with a Kaggle notebook that I took this data set and I built this whole thing. Then interviewer, other people are more interested. So I won't recommend you focusing on certification, but focus on learning. But even if, let's say, if you want to get certification, go for Azure or AWS data scientist or a machine learning or data analyst certification, rather than free certifications like Udemy and everything. One question is, how much salary can I expect in this field? Again, I would say don't focus on the salary part as an early career. First 4 to 5 years, just focus on learning, because salary depends on what skill set you have. If you're a very new entering into a company, you don't know how to deal with big data technologies, you're just doing data visualization and data exploration, that is more of a business intelligence and an analyst role. So the salary might be a little less, but as you grow and as you learn more, then the salary will increase. So I can't give you a number, depending on, it depends on the company, organization and everything, but I won't focusing on salary in at least first 3 to 4 years. Can you suggest me some free resources to learn soft skills? So I don't have any resources, but the one thing that I can tell you is teach others. Let's say you know something, you know how to build a regression model. can you write a blog about it? Just write a blog about it, because once you explain something to others, that helps you in building that communication style and everything. So to learn soft skills, initially, I would say, try the teaching kind of a path where you write blogs, write on LinkedIn what you learned, explain it to people, and that's how you build soft skills. How to land the first internships, like where to find it, as it's really hard to find an internships these days. Yes, it's very hard to find internships, but use platforms, Zuno, or I would say network with people. Let's say you know me now. Just send a message on LinkedIn. Does Tesco have any internships? Or let's say there are lots of free conferences where students can go for free. IBM organizes one, even Tesco organizes one. Just go for these conferences, meet people who are actually working there, connect with them through LinkedIn, and send them a message, because companies actually love interns. Interns are very, I would say, very cheap resource, and they can actually teach what they are working on to interns and convert them into a full-time roles. So companies do love interns, and I think you should use platforms as well as networking. One of the question, as a fourth SAM engineering student with basic programming knowledge, what kind of projects would you recommend to do in 6th semester to get internships? So I will say, let's say what kind of role you want. Let's say you want to work for Tesco or any kind of retail organization. Take some kind of free data set from Kaggle, which is related to retail, and you solve a business problem from the data. And business problem, let's create an hypothesis that, how is my customer satisfaction related to my pricing on products? You do one project from start to end where you clean your data, build a model, explain what happened in business terms. And then when you go for interviews or anything, you can actually show that thing, that you started from here and this is your conclusion. So I will highly recommend going to Kaggle, and what kind of industry that, whatever industry that you're interested in, take those data sets and solve or do something about it. Okay. From where can I learn MongoDB with practical knowledge? MongoDB is, I think, free for students. So if you're a student, you can actually create a MongoDB account. It's part of Microsoft Student Developer Pack. And there you will actually get a Spotify data as well. It's I think huge, about 50 GB plus data. So you can use that data set to practice MongoDB. And there is someone was asking about certification. The MongoDB certification, I think, is free for students. The rest, everyone, it's expensive. It's, I think, more than $200. So I would say go to MongoDB and use your student ID or student email ID to make an account. I have done MCA. What should I do for next? I don't have a good basics. So Ravi Teja, I think use Data Camp. I remember when I was in food technology with no programming experience, Data Camp is a very good start where they will teach you from basics how, what variables are, how the programming works, or how to think like a computer scientist in a very logical way. So I will tell you to learn Python, and Python is very easy to learn as well. Use Data Camp or a Udemy where you learn Python, and then I think you can go to each step. Which role to start for freshers? So I'll recommend going for a data analyst or a business intelligence roles initially. So I myself started with a data analyst role, because that way you will actually learn what kind of data is available in real world, or what kind of, or how big data is out there. So then you can transition slowly internally or through a job change to a data scientist role. But let's say if you're very skilled in everything, then you can go directly for a data scientist role as well. Someone asked, I'm a business analyst. What you would suggest me to learn, which would help me in my career? So if I understand business analyst role, I think it's again very related to analyst role. So you already have a business skill and you have that curious and analyst mindset. then I will recommend you, going one step ahead, learn big data technologies and learn basic machine learning to, transition into a next role. I'm a BTech graduate in mechanical engineering, completely fresh. It is worth if I join the ed tech for data science courses. What was the opportunity for a fresher in data science? Depends. So there are many ed techs with industry relation. If whatever the course or degree that you're going through ed tech, if they have a, let's say, an internship or some kind of relation with the real industry, then I will recommend it, because that way you can actually transition into a job role. But let's say if that is not guaranteed, I won't recommend going to an ed tech, because I believe everything is free to learn online. So I don't recommend paying for something with no, you know, uh, results. But if, let's say, if you struggle with learning part on your own, then go to edtech, because that way you will psychologically actually go and attend all the classes and you'll learn through a curriculum. So yes. How to get the business knowledge or the knowledge we need to present our analysis to stakeholders. So business knowledge actually depends on what kind of company that we are working in. Initially, before I was working for an insurance company, so I learned about how the insurance business works. Now I'm working for a retail company. Then I need to learn about the retail business. So I think the business knowledge will come when you join a company. Then once you join, you should focus on business knowledge, or even before you join, you can learn a little bit how a retail or an insurance or a pharma business works from start to end. And presenting your analysis to stakeholders, I would say take a data set, let's say retail data sets, and you're solving a problem. Just think that you're presenting your analysis to chief marketing officer of some company. How will you present it? Make that PPT. And actually you can print that PPT and show it in your interviews. Which kind of projects should we start during college time to add in my CV? I will recommend, do one thing of each. Let's say, one project about data visualization, one machine learning project, one project related to cloud computing. That way you are actually showing to a recruiter or a company that you actually know each and every stage of data science life cycle, and you can actually fit into any kind of a role. So how many projects should I write on my resume for get noticed? There is no number for it. If you write 100 projects and none of them actually matters, you won't get a job. But let's say if you write one good project which you did from start to end and which actually is very effective and solves something, then write that. But there's no number for how many projects that you should write on your resume. And people actually don't read resume if it's a long resume. So try to fit everything in one page. I'm an MBA graduate and done certification course on PGDA. I'm not sure what PGDA is, postgraduate data analyst maybe. But I know what the question is here, but we can move to the next one. The next question is, do only experienced person work on data science and not fresher? No, it's not like that. As I said, if you can prove to your recruiters or your, the company that you can actually handle a complex machine learning task, they'll actually give you that kind of a role. And, there are lots of free resources, do that. But if, let's say, if you want to learn on the job, then I recommended, you should start with business intelligence to get the idea on the big data and what kind of business problems the companies solve. But it's not, there's no hard and fast rule that you cannot go to a data scientist role, instantly. You can actually go. So I have a BTech in CSE from Parala Maharaj Engineering College. I'm taking IT. How can I explore? I think I answered that question in my PPT. It doesn't matter what degree that you're doing. It actually matters for at least for the first job, what you actually built out of it or what you learned out of it. If it is possible to learn data science online, data science for beginner, yes, you can learn data science online. Data Camp, as I said, it's a great resources. I'm a first year student of BTech. How can I develop my logical skills? Uh, I think, yeah, the logical skill set, once you go for interviews, they actually, more than programming, they actually test you on the logical skill sets. I will recommend, going, search on Google, different business case studies. How do you solve them? Or, go to, I think, HackerRank and everything, where you will have lots of questions and how do you solve all of these things? How many days it will take to finish some kind of course depends on you actually. You can finish one course in 1 day as well, or 1 month, but I would emphasize what you do after finishing that course. So it doesn't matter how many days. I completed graduation in BCom. How to start first in data science? I think I have covered in those slides. Same question. MC fresher, how to crack the interview and develop the skill set. For interviews, as I said, let's say you're going for a retail company or a pharma company or any kind of company, just read about the companies, what kind of problems they are solving, and try to talk in their language rather than talking in your language that, oh, I built this. Try to, okay, I did this particular thing, or I built an optimization model. I think it will be very helpful for your retail company to, set prices or anything. So talk in their language and, just read about the company. Can you please suggest some projects ideas for fresher? Project ideas, I would say, depends on you. But you can go to Kaggle. You can see what other people are doing. They are, for example, there are projects. Let's say you're focusing on a pharma company. There are many projects as well as data sets on Kaggle about, let's say, detecting cancer or detecting, a thyroid problem, anything. So depending on what you're interested in, you should focus on those projects. For example, I love retail and I want to grow my career in retail. So I read a lot about retail and try to convert those things into data science problems. But Kaggle is one good resource, as well as Coursera has one projects, uh, category where you can actually use pre-built projects to and follow them step by step as a start. I think last two questions. Okay, I'm in last year of BAG program. What should I do to enter in data science? I think I covered that in my slides. Please suggest me how do I start this. I think again, as I said, start with programming, little bit of math, databases, visualization. At least these first 4 steps, start them. Machine learning and everything, I think you'll learn a little bit later as well as you explore. Yeah, I think that's it. If any other questions, you can write it. If not, I think we are good. And you can obviously reach out to me on LinkedIn. We can connect. And if you have any questions, you can ask. But just don't bombard me today with all the internship opportunities at Tesco. But yeah, it's good to connect for future as well. Ayan, if there are no other questions, or is there any other questions on chat?
Let's check the chat option as well.
Okay. One of them asked about web development versus data scientist. Again, very different role. Web developers do a development to make websites. Data scientists actually solve business problems with data. So very different role. Don't mix them. So first focus what kind of a role you want to go. Yeah, I'll share the slides with found it. They can share. Do experienced people only work? I think that I have, again, web development questions. I think most of them I have covered. I have a commerce background and head in finance analysis field. Would you? Yeah, again, for example, Tesco, let's say I work in customer data team. There is a finance data science team as well. So let's say you're interested in finance, all the number crunching, the skill set is same. Programming, big data, transformation, visualization, but there you will need more finance business expertise as well. Why my numbers are going down, or all of those things. Which field to choose as a beginner, web development or a data analyst? Again, it's a very two different field. Data analyst is so I will say data scientist, data analyst, these roles are very different from development or developer. Data roles don't actually develop something. They actually, let's say I built a machine learning model which can talk like chat GPT. Then a web developer, a very different role, or a software engineer will come. They will use my model and make a website out of it. So again, it's a very different role. Finance analysis, I think I've done. Commerce, same question. I have a commerce, I think this is done. How high in management level jobs we can go in data science jobs? I mean, you can become a chief data officer of a company. You can even become a CEO of a company. I don't know. In most of the companies nowadays, for senior leadership as well, they are doing data science beginner courses, so that people talk in data language. Companies should be data driven. So you can actually go as high as CEO in management level, even through data science. But you should have that kind of a mindset, curious and business mindset. This was not a demo webinar. How much stat is important for data science? I mean, very basic stat is important. Let's say when to use mean and median, what is the difference, what different data types are. I'll give you an example. For example, in a car, there are 4 doors. There are few cars with 2 doors. For computer, it's 2 and 4. Technically, it's a numerical data. But as a logical person, I know that 2-door car and a 4-door car is a categorical problem. It's not a number, it's more of a type of a car. So again, I think the stat and math, I would say, just focus on basics. Don't go too much deep. Introduction, I can't recommend any particular course, but as I said, data camp, that's where I learned. As a civil engineer, yes, you can go into data science. Okay, I think that's it then. Yeah.
So, Yogesh, thank you for this informative webinar on data science career guide, step to success. Your expertise and engaging presentation style made the session very captivating. The practical tips and step-by-step guidance for the successful career in data science were invaluable. Your dedication in sharing the knowledge is commendable, and students must be feeling grateful for the opportunity to learn from you, and look forward to implementing the advice that I've gotten from you. So once again, thank you from my side and from the students.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Have a nice day ahead, Yogesh.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Bye bye, everyone.